Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Road to Success with the Lady Mara podcast. Today on the show, my guest is a lady I absolutely love. She is the founder of Travel Essence magazine. She's also the founder of Narratives PR. She's an all-round media girl. In fact, one of the two African female media ladies resident here in Dubai and just shaking things up. Yvonne has been there, done that, from Africa to the US, back to Africa, and then to the UAE, and now exploring Africa for the rest of the world. I absolutely love her story, and I can't wait for you to experience it as well. This is an exciting conversation. I cannot wait to get in. And that's because Yvonne is not just Superwoman. She's not just another successful Black woman here in the UAE, but she's also my sister and friend. It is so good to be doing this.
Hey, girl. Hey, sister girlfriend.
I feel like people are not ready for what's coming.
Oh, dear. You know what? Let it do what it do.
You just got back from another of your amazing, trips in Africa. What was that like?
It was amazing. They're always amazing. I think every single trip carries with it something so special. It was an invitation by the Kingdom of Eswatini to come and participate in their annual Umhlanga Reed Dance, which is a really elaborate celebration of culture, heritage. It's just a beautiful thing to see. And it was cool that I got to see it firsthand and really understand what it all is, what it means. Meet other journals that were on the trip with us. We did a road trip from South Africa into Eswatini, and it was just great. They're always good.
We live through your Instagram.
Thank you. Listen, we're here to shine light on this beautiful continent of ours. I haven't even begun to scrape the surface of how amazing our people are, the destinations and all of that good stuff. But listen, if not now, then when?
Then when?
If not me, then who?
Then who?
Yeah.
But before we really get into what it is to be African here and be successful, and also take advantage of the fact that you're African here in the UAE, let's do a backtrack and just in 1 minute help us understand who you are, where you've come from as far as your UAE. And I know your story goes like far back, right? From Zim to the US and all that. But give me the UAE version from Abu Dhabi.
Gosh, the UAE version. Actually, I got to Abu Dhabi. My husband had just landed a post here. I came in as a stay-at-home mom. I had 2 little tots. My daughter was turning 4. My son was 1. And I was in a season where all we were doing was lunch boxes and Pampers and school runs and supermarket runs and spinnies. So the honest truth is, when I came here, I was in a season of serving my family. Just to kind of take that back a little bit, I had an illustrious career in the US and even across Africa. We decided to get back home, got married. And, having lived in the US for almost 10 years, I felt like there's some bits of individualism that you pick up a little bit. It's a completely different culture. Togetherness means something very different from what I had grown up with being an African. So I think that was just God's way of sort of bringing everything back to the essence of me and teaching me how to serve. You know what it is to be a mother. It's an act of service every single minute. You know what it is to be a wife. It's an act of service every single minute. And so that was it. Abu Dhabi was very much entering a new city, completely different landscape. Excited at the newness of it. So there was no I hit the ground running story for me. There was none of that. It was a beautiful story, expat mom, whatever, but it was also, it also had its hard moments because I'd always been a working woman. I was always a woman who knows how to get her she's about her coin and she's about that
Get
hustle.
the bag.
So now the hustle was freaking carrot sticks in the lunchbox and freaking
And design. Did you design them as well?
Girl, you know what? I think I was on a conveyor belt. I didn't have help. I didn't have a nanny. I was super mom, right? I was doing the plays. I was running from this one to that one, and it was. I think in hindsight, it was beautiful, but at the time, it was also exhausting. It was really. It was hard.
How did you go from there to becoming boss chick at Ferrari World?
Oh, wow. That's a huge, huge jump. Well, I think what actually happened for me was a trip I took to go back home, and I was working on a project. So I packed the kids and they went with me. And in that season, because I was at my mom and dad's, I had help with the kids. So I kind of got back on my hustle mode and networking and pushing a project along. A lot of success came out of it. And then within a year, I knew, okay, it's time for me to go back home, which was Abu Dhabi. But I'm going back home to do what? Because when I left, I had left with babies and, I was going to take on this project and see where it was going to take us. And just getting back to, I remember asking my dad, I said to him, if you were to, what do you think I'm good at? Because I actually didn't know. There's been so much time that had passed.
Kind of lose yourself a bit.
Yeah, so I lost I really did feel like I lost myself in all the different hats that we're wearing that were non-corporate, right? And I asked him, I just said, what do you, and he said, you're a fixer. You know how to fix things and to get solutions, and you're great with communicating. So do something like that. And he was like, do something like that. Do something like PR, because you're a PR person. You know who's who. You know how to connect people. That was your dad. That was my dad. So I took that message and I literally came back and I said, okay, I'm ready to get back to work. My son was 18 months old, so ready to go into nursery. And I was like, I'm ready to get back to work. And I just got to applying for jobs. I had no experience in the PR world. Got a call, went for the interview and did really well. And they offered me a job. I remember them actually having a caveat to that offer. They were like, we're going to try working with, but we actually don't know where to fit you because you're new to this industry and new to this market. We like your vibe. We like your energy. And I was like, cool, I'll run with that. And I ran. I just took it and I ran. And within a couple months, I had landed some really great contracts for the firm I was working with. I was part of some amazing projects in Abu Dhabi. So all things tourism, I was on the cusp of what was hot, what was happening. And I learned a lot. I was green, wet behind the ears in the PR space, always been a destination marketing. So it was a low-key pivot in a very fast-paced environment. But I think that's the recipe for movement. Mm-hmm. You have to kind of just get in there and figure it out as you go along. And it just worked for me. I'm so grateful. 2.5 years in that firm. And then I got a call to, hey, we would like to speak to you about Ferrari World. Come in. I came in. It was an interview that turned into a 5-hour chat with the hiring manager. And the rest is history. And the role was what? Head of PR. Head of PR. For Ferrari World Abu Dhabi, yeah. For Ferrari World Abu Dhabi. Yeah. An industry you literally had just got into, say 2.5 on the 3 years. Yeah, so it was like 3 years later that I got that. How does anyone do that? You have to work hard. I think what we need to understand is that anything that's worth having requires a really massive degree of commitment and exertion of energy. I had weekends that I was working. I remember getting a call to say there was a celebrity in town that needed to be hosted. I was sitting in the dentist chair getting ready to get something done. And I jumped out that chair and I said, Doc, see you later. Give me some painkillers. I got to go. Because you have to be able to recognize an opportunity for what it is. Yeah. You have to be able to see and understand that it could be somebody else. And as working in a corporate space, we all have an expiration date. There's always somebody ready to do what you do and do it better. right? So while you're there and you've got this window from your start date to the day that you exit the company, or the start of a project to the time that you have that period of time to be impactful. So what does that impact look like for you? Is it how you deal with people and how you work with people, work well with them? Is it the lasting impression that you leave with each interaction? Is it blowing KPIs? Is it your creativity? You come up with these great concepts and you know exactly what is it, your confidence? There has to be that little marker that you leave behind.
That sets you apart.
Yeah, that sets you apart because,
Because you're in this position not only as African in the UAE, in the Middle East, you're also a woman with little kids.
Yeah.
So your kids are like 6, 7, and then 3, 4. So they're still young.
And sometimes you work with people, from my experience, I worked with a lot of people who didn't have children. So if I'm telling them I have to be at my daughter's play, they're like, play?
What is that?
But we have a meeting.
We have work. How dare you?
So you have to be very clear about what's important to you. And it's not always easy for some people to understand. I worked in a very male-dominated environment as well. So a lot of them had their wives at home doing what I was doing a few years before, the lunchboxes, right?
Exactly.
So if I'm telling them that, fam, I have to be at the house to put my daughter to bed, you hope that they understand, but don't expect that they get it. So it depends. I think it depends with the situation and how you work with people. For me, I find that honesty solves a lot of problems. If you just tell people what the real of it is, and you set your boundaries immediately. Guys, I have a school run, so I'm happy to be at the meeting, but it can't be between 1:30 and 3 because I have to make a dash to pick up my kids and drop them off at the house so I can be back for the meeting on time. If you have the conversations and you have them in a sort of create an atmosphere for people to kind of understand where you're coming from. People do.
They're humans after all, right?
They are. And if they're not, then you can then take what you get from that and decide whether it works for you or doesn't work for you. Some environments are not suited for working moms. Some aren't. Some environments are not suited for people who don't have a threshold for high intensity or pressure, working on the weekends. PR is one of those spaces where there's no off. I used to get calls at midnight to draft a press release, and now you're crawling out of bed. You've got the one eye from the husband, like, where you going? You're like, I
have to do what I have to do.
Right? So I think it's so many different things that contribute to the entire ride.
Recently I've been getting a lot of followers from America, a lot for whatever. And I know there's one video that I've done that sort of led to all that, right? That's me talking about, I moved to Dubai 2019, and now I built a brand up. For some reason, it's resonating a lot with Americans and even a bunch of people from the UK as well.
Right.
Plus, I'm planning to go there next year. Let's see, a Lady May personal branding. I don't know.
Yeah.
But with that, I get questions about what it's like to be Black in this country.
Yeah.
Right? The UAE and Dubai are hotcake right now globally. A lot of people want to come in because of all the benefits and advantage. And you get this Black Americans asking, curious to know what it's like to be Black here. Backstory. And I did have to talk to a friend, Jamila, over the phone and say, girl, I've been getting a lot of followers from the US, getting questions. What is it? What is the interest? Give me like the context.
Right.
Like, I'm planning to go to the US. What would really work in that market? And she told me, that in America, there's a lot about, rights and them feeling like second class in a country that's theirs. All of these issues that Black people face. And so when they're looking to leave, go elsewhere, build wealth, start afresh, they want to be sure of where they're heading to.
Right. So but can you ever be sure though?
Which is why they're asking me, right?
Yeah. Can you ever be sure? And I think it's a good idea to talk to people that have gone before you and have taken that journey before. By all means, now we're inundated with options of how we can get information that is credible and useful. but there's no two journeys that are the same.
They're the same.
And I think it's a misnomer to think just because it worked this way for Mayowa or for Yvonne, it's going to work that way for me. There's so many different variables. There's so many different variables that come to the fore when we navigate each other's life journeys, right? So I think what it is you need to have the boldness and the just be sure of the fact that, listen, I'm taking this leap of faith, and it's not based on what I saw happen to this, that, and the other. Listen, that's great.
It shows the possibilities.
It shows the possibilities. It shows that, listen, if that person made it, then there's potential for me as well, right? But I think walk your journey and be okay with having to make a pivot. Be okay with the possibility that perhaps it might not actually work out
that way.
Yes, because I will tell you something. Before we moved to the UAE 10 years ago, we actually had been here before. We were newlyweds, and we got here, and it just wasn't for us in our first year, and we decided to go back home. And we started from zero. Literally, we packed up and said, we're going to the UAE. And it was, out of several promises and several bits of advice. And we got here, and that
wasn't working.
It was completely different. And we were like, you know what? This is not what we want. And this is not what it needs to be for now. So we took several steps back, and we went back, and it was like, oh, they're back. And there was all that chatter, as you would expect. But then when we did turn around and come back 3 years later, it wasn't us coming to say, oh, we're going to try to go. It was a call to say, we need you to be here. And the opportunity was, you can't even compare the opportunity versus the first attempt, right? So we have to be open to the possibility that things may not work. You have to expect for some stuff to happen that is not as favorable as you would like to. You have to be expectant of that. You actually have to be willing to embrace the possibility that it might just actually go all the way south. Okay? But you're breathing. You ain't gonna die. And if you're a good person, you're gonna have some people that can help you out along the way. Now, if you're a mess, then oh damn.
Absolutely.
But
going back to your story, yes, you were a Ferrari world. It was amazing. It was a powerful position.
Yeah.
But you did leave.
Right.
And then COVID hit.
Right.
And then you found yourself in Dubai.
Right.
Which is like a whole new world, honestly.
Right.
If Abu Dhabi is your place, then it's your place.
Right.
It's like, for me, I almost feel like Abu Dhabi is another country. That's how it feels to me, because I literally have no connections there. It's like a few friends. But if I went to Abu Dhabi, I probably would just be May. I'm not Lady May, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, I hear you.
So despite getting to that position and having all that, in a sense, you still went back to zero.
Yeah.
Not exactly zero, but you did leave Ferrari world. You ended up at home again.
Yeah. But you know what? I think, so I always say my life is a product of a lot of faith. My life is a product of, I don't want to say fearlessness, because that's not entirely accurate. I just know how to do it afraid. I know how to do it afraid. You're only ever going to get a yes
or
a no,
not
or
now.
Maybe, or maybe later, right? So it's my odds are high, guys, if those are my odds, right? And I don't look at it from that perspective. And at that time I didn't. I just felt like it was the season for a shift. The kids were a little bit older. We felt, my husband had gotten a new role, and he had been commuting, and then I was commuting for a little bit, and it was taking a toll on me to be making those drives and being in the office early. There was a lot of different factors that contributed to us moving to Dubai, and making the decision and that time to say, now we want to take that change. It was easily one of the best things that have happened from a career perspective. It's when I actually started taking my business seriously, because I was kind of half baking the business side of things, because I was still in corporate. So I was like, well, I'll work, and then I don't have to, COVID hit, and COVID was a big pivot for everybody. So I didn't feel alone, in the sense that I was grappling newness. We all were. We were all cooped up in our homes and locked down and having to go online to plug in when we can go and buy the tomatoes and the onions. And
can I please go out now to get some groceries?
Yeah, we were all in that. We were all trying to figure, we were all learning how to homeschool our kids, and their kids are driving you crazy. You can't remember how to add 1 + 4 because there's homework, and we were all there, right? But you take everything in strides, and life is about seasons. And so for me, I look at everything from that perspective. Be very conscious about what's happening in the now, what's most important, what isn't, what can wait, what needs to go, and we just roll.
And in all of that, COVID, new Emirate city, for those who are not familiar, in all of that, my life has got to change. I need to adjust. Something beautiful came out of that that I think is bigger than anything you've ever done. Right? If I dare to say so myself, you gave birth to Travel Essence. And it took a new life. Tell me about also knowing again, what should I be doing? Because you find a lot of people, we're talking about road to success, right? First, you need to have the identity. And your dad helped you in that. Regardless of whatever you studied in university, what you had been doing, that calls you out. It's like, listen, this is who you are. It's not about being in a role. It's not about any office position. It's not about any of that. It's just who you are. Right? And find a way to serve. You definitely succeed. So the identity was already there. But there's also finding the opportunities to serve with this identity that we've discovered. So in that space of COVID and all that, how did you know for sure that Travel Essence is the way to go?
I've always wanted to. So obviously my career had lended itself to the things that I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about storytelling. I worked in PR, and that helped me to perfect the craft of actually writing. Prior to that, I didn't do much content curating or content writing. I was heavy on the marketing side of campaigns and things. In completely different sectors. I mean, granted, it was tourism, but also real estate. Like, I was a whole real estate juggernaut when I was in the US. So that was a lot of people don't know that. And I still am low key super dope on real estate. I love it. I would do that in my sleep. But I always wanted to do something that tells a story. And I think for me, the biggest trigger during the whole COVID thing was turning on the TV and all you hear is, we need to vaccinate the Africans because the Africans are going to die.
If they're going to kill all of us.
All of us going to die. The continent is not ready. And I'm looking at the stats and I'm like, guys, why is the whole continent having less number of deaths than one country in Europe? Hello, somebody. So, and why is that not being talked about? So I watched so many different clippings, and this celebrity says this, and there's this money going towards that, and we are going to vaccinate the Africans. And I was like, I just need to leave us alone. Because, geez.
Let us breathe.
Yeah, so let us breathe. So I think that was my first thing, like, okay, that's just a lot. That's a lot. And we are all kind of dealing with a lot because it was just the newness and the shock of all of it for all of us. But then the big thing for me was, how do I then shed light on the beauty of the continent in a way that invokes curiosity, in a way that speaks to the average person? Working in PR, you're always conscious of the consumer sentiment. So what's easy for people to consume? Yeah, you can talk about culture, but that lends itself, it's very niche. People will have to be interested for you to run with that, right? And then I just went back to my original blueprint. I mean, I came to the UAE. My last role before I left to the UAE was destination marketing. My career had started in hospitality when I moved back to Africa. So again, pivots, because when I was in the US, I was in real estate.
Absolutely.
I got to Zim and I realized, well, I can't sell property nearly as fast as I was moving it in the US because, and let's face it, Africans live in the same house for 50 years. So you're not selling houses in a hurry. So I had to pivot, and I always knew I wanted to be in an environment with my work that is pretty, that I like, that it inspires me. So I didn't want to work in a cubicle. I knew I wasn't going to be a banker because the banking hole just looks a mess. There were certain careers that I knew were just not for me.
No.
I've always been big on, listen, this is not working for me, so I'm just going to exit stage left. I went to school, to uni as pre-med. And in my first year, after wearing lab coats and freaking going to the lab and freaking petri dishes, I was like, do I really want to be doing this for the next? And then residency is however many years. Do I really want to? So I've always been conscious. If it's not working for me and it doesn't make my heart sing, let's not waste time. Let's look at something that can take us in the direction that we need to go. So with COVID having happened, I thought, I'd love to talk about travel. I love travel. I haven't traveled nearly as much because, traveling with thoughts is a whole exercise. So I had put that on the bench, but I had something to say. And it literally started with a few conversations. Shout out to Louisa and Daphne, sister friends of mine, incredible women who were like, yeah, that would be cool. So we kind of just started writing stuff together. I started reaching out to contacts. And the importance of social capital and really nurturing good relationships is that if you do good by people, when you come knocking on their door, they'll come through for you. So a lot of people were like, sure, Yvonne, what do you need? And I'm like, I just would like to write about this. And it literally started like that 3 years ago. And to this day, Travel Essence magazine is produced primarily from my dining room table. There's no big warehouse with 6,000 people running around. No, I'm so blessed to have a dedicated, really committed group of people that love what we do. They're passionate about their craft. And, we've created something that allows us all to thrive. We are all figuring out.
Oh, yeah.
We are all figuring this thing out, right? And we don't always get it right, but we have strength in our adaptive capacity and in our willingness to shed light on the beauty of our continent. So
that's amazing. And my next question would be, how do we find opportunities? And I think in all of this conversation, you've actually answered that. But opportunities also come through people. Like I think I posted a while ago to say opportunities move in circles.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If I have a gig and it's travel related, guess who's going to get it first?
Yeah.
It's going to be my sis Yvonne. I'm not going to go and post and say, hi, everyone, I'm looking for it. No.
Yeah.
Opportunities move in circles. And so it's important that we nurture relationships. Nurture the right
relationship. It's important to have good people in your circle and for you to be good to them. I think a mistake that we make is we're so quick and fixated on the dollar value of what we're trying to achieve. We start thinking numbers before we think. You can't have a baby running before it learns how to crawl. And you have to be able to create value out of what it is that you're offering. And you have to be able to see that value. But a lot of business owners, I think the mistake that we tend to make is we want to start flying in a jet before we know how to ride a bike. And that's not going to work. It's service. The first year of Travel Essence magazine, we didn't make a cent. I didn't make a cent. I put all that I had in terms of savings into building this thing.
A whole year.
More than that even. Do you understand? And what it was though was consistency. We were consistent in putting out a good issue, a quality issue, telling quality stories and doing it in a way that I benchmarked really high. I didn't say, I want to do a magazine that looks like my friend Patricia's magazine. I went for the big guys. I did a recon to see who was hot. I wanted to see who's talking Africa. What does it look like? Where can you find it? What does it look like visually? Because travel is inspirational,
very
right?
Visual, yeah.
You can't encourage somebody to go someplace when you can't show them visually. Yeah. So I spent a lot of time trying to understand who is actually curating content on Africa outside of the content creator space, because there's content creators. It's amazing. You do your thing with the drones and everything. But then there's also the storytelling. You need to actually tell people the story of, okay, now that I got to the top of that mountain and they put the drone and it went up, but how did they get to the top of the thing? Did it take me 10 hours to hike or whatever?
So would you call yourself a content creator?
I don't know if I don't like titles because I think it just puts you in a box. I think you can be whatever you need to be for that moment and for that season. So when people are like, oh, what do you do? Depends on where I'm at.
On who I'm talking to.
And who I'm talking to, right? Because I do a lot of things. But I do some things exceptionally well. You know, if you ask me what I do, it's not who I am. So we need to be able to also separate the thing. I work in PR. I am a comm strategist. I love people. I genuinely enjoy meeting and talking to people. But most people think just because I might have a big personality or I'm quite, I drop jokes and whatever, that I don't always like to be around folk. I actually love me time. I spend a lot of time alone. So that when I do come out, you're meeting me from a place of being full.
Yeah.
It's the overflow. You're not getting Yvonne that's tired because she's been dealing with 6 million people the whole week. I actually like centering myself. I love my walks at night. I love my moments and people in doses.
So from starting Travel Essence at the dining table with a small team.
Yeah.
You've gotten to the place where we barely see you in Dubai now, right? I can't remember the last girls hangout we had. You've gotten to the point where you're going from country to country and you're traveling every quarter. And we're talking quality stuff. Like you were just in the Maldives.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? My sister. You've gotten to that point. And the work doesn't stop.
Yeah.
Regardless of Travel Essence has a name.
Yeah.
Travel Essence is working with Dubai Tourism.
Yeah.
Travel Essence is there. Like we look at the quality of what you do, the quality of the content, the quality of the people that you have on there.
Right.
The work doesn't stop.
No.
And you have to keep going. And you and I talk about some of these meetings and how you're taking those lessons that you're learning from those meetings and those people that you meet and tweaking things. And how do you keep going? And how do you keep looking for opportunities and finding opportunities? How do you know where to check, where to look?
I let my passion drive me. So if it's interesting, I want to know how I can get close to that thing. I also think that there's so much power around aligning yourself with people that have shared values. A lot of my opportunities have come from people that have seen me and said, you know what you're doing is kind of dope. So how can we work together? I'll share something that a woman I hugely respect once shared. We were speaking at an event together. Stella Fubar. And she said that, when your hand is always open, somebody might take something out of your hand, but there's always going to be somebody that's ready to put something in your hand. And I thought that was really, really profound because it speaks to what I'm about. Now, I've always felt that there's so many ways to give. You don't necessarily have to give monetarily. I think sometimes society has this belief that to give, it has to be money. You can give of your time, you can give of your advice, you can give of a listening ear, you can just show up and pop in, check in on somebody, send them a note, DM you, or they send you a note and you respond in a way that resonates. You avail yourself. But I'm also very in that and being very conscious of how a lot of my blessings have come from being open. I'm also conscious of the fact that you can't be open all of the time, and you can't be everything to everybody and be everywhere all of the time, because then what's left, right? What's left? I still have to be mom. I still have to be wife. I still have to be sister, friend, daughter. I still have to be me. Yvonne is Yvonne first before all of these different roles and responsibilities and, whatever people will see and love about me or don't.
There's that.
I mean, there's that. Okay. And it's fine too. Listen, it's fine too. But I think it's really, really important to be intuitive and to know how to read a room, to know that to know what ministers to you, because if you don't know what ministers to you, you can't operate authentically. I am happy to be in a crowded room and be in the back of that room because I like to read the room. I like to read the energy. If the energy is not it for me, I will take my bag, girl. I gotta go, friends. And I will be on my couch, happy on my couch.
Netflix and chilling by yourself.
I have no pressure. Friends, hear me and hear me well. I am too old to be stressing nobody's child or getting stressed by somebody's child over something that just doesn't work. It doesn't work. I think sometimes we have blood pressure and we don't sleep and all of these things because we're trying to do too much for everybody all of the time. And it's not attainable. It's not. So having those honest, open relationships with self and others, and nurturing really strong relationships where people get you, you get them. So there isn't that pressure. We were just talking just now to say, Jack, girl, we haven't seen each other for a minute. It's a minute for us because we live down the road from each other and we do a lot of stuff together. So it is a minute in that sense. But it's also there's respect and recognition of the fact that Maiwa is moving. You are busy. And Yvonne is moving and we're moving and we'll see each other and catch up from where we meet each other from where we left off. And there's no pressure. That's what is a healthy relationship. There's no pressure to perform or to be on form or I gotta call Maiwa because I haven't spoken to her since Friday. No, there's none of that. It's like, girl, I see you, girl. And I see you. And I love that, we've got social media now where we feel like we've seen each other just now because we're chatting on.
We can send a meme.
We can do all sorts of things or whatever. But yeah, it's really about the pursuit of authenticity in every, you can't show up for nobody else but yourself.
Absolutely. Can't dispute that. Talk to me about, so you're a storyteller. You're one who has had to start something from scratch and build it all the way up, and you're still building. And a lot of people, I feel like the mistake a lot of people make on their road to success is they're not able to package what they have. They feel like it's small, and so it's not worthy of collaborations, partnerships, of someone else putting money on it.
To be fair, some of the stuff on these here streets is a mess. But that's for another day. That's for part 2.
Right? People not seeing because they think it's small.
Yeah.
How do you, so now I want you to teach, so to speak.
Okay.
How do we package what we have, even when we think it's a small idea, just a small, it's just this magazine that I'm running from my dining table. And how do you get a whole Dubai tourism to jump on that?
Don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to ask, and don't be afraid to ask questions. And I bring it back to service. If you believe in, they always talk about passion being that thing that you do even if you're not getting paid for it.
It's good to get paid for it.
We love to get paid for it. But sometimes it's going to take a while before you start getting paid what you're worth for it. We have to put in the work. It's like going to school. We go to school for many, many, many years before we start getting the paycheck, right? So if you were being told that, hey, for you to make this amount of money, for you to start making 6 figures, you're going to have to work 20 years and not get paid for this. Are you going to do it? You're going to be like, look, nah, right? So it takes a lot of different things. We talked about consistency earlier on. You have to be consistent. You have to be very clear about what it is that you stand for. And that wraps itself up in a lot of different things. There's some rooms that I will not enter. Not because there's anything that's going to bite me in that room, but I'm very conscious of association. I'm very conscious of my time. I'm very conscious that if I don't show up in my authentic self, then I'm doing nobody service. There's really no point of it. If I'm going to show up and be a Grinch and I'm whining about why I'm there, then why am I there? Right? I think there's a lot of dignity in being able to say no. No is a complete answer. It's a complete sentence. It's a complete answer. it's and if you know how to confidently say it, people will respect it. I believe in putting in the work. You have to put in the work. There's no shortcuts about it. I wish I could say that there's a shortcut. There isn't. On packaging, if you can't articulate yourself, how do you expect us to understand what it is you're selling? And I think sometimes that's the challenge. You have people that are very, very gifted at what they do. But if you ask them, so tell me, what are you doing? They can't even explain. Oh, I've got this shirt. Talk to me about the material. Talk to me about what inspired the design. Talk to me about why you're excited to be here to show us your stuff, right? We've been to places where we meet people who have beautiful jewelry or beautiful pieces of art, and they just stand there. You're not selling your things. So you want me to buy out of a whim? And how do I see your stuff out of a room that's filled with other people's stuff that may or may not be equally amazing? So you have got to PR yourself.
Absolutely.
PR
There's something
yourself.
I said recently. I've forgotten how I said it, but the end of it was stories sell.
They do. And there's no creative delivery that can take place without it being inspired by a story of some sort. So if you ask a painter what inspired him to pick up the brush and make that amazing artwork that's hanging off your wall, he'll tell you a story behind that. If he's a true creative, he'll have a whole song and a whole hum. He might even tell you that it took him 2 years to paint that thing, and that thing be this big. Like, really?
And then he put a dot each
yeah,
day.
Yeah, exactly. So it's yeah, man. It's you have to let your passion lead, then and figure out how to create a model where that passion also feeds you. Because we just don't want to be passionate out here on these streets.
These bills either. Don't play.
They don't, you know what I mean? No, ma'am, they don't. Especially not in Dubai, okay?
No, please.
Yeah.
Who was the first person that was sort of like the human representation of success for you?
That's a good question. Only one person?
Maybe the first, as far back as you can go, the first person that you feel like, as you grew up, was like, this is the image of success.
My folks, for me, my folks are my goals, man. My folks they've been married, God bless their hearts. They've been married 42 years. They are young, energetic grandma and grandpa who have huge hearts, and they have been burnt a lot. That's what happens when you have a huge heart. You have to be prepared to get burnt. They've been burnt a lot, but they made it out. And when I say they made it out, I mean in the sense of, when you look at a whole generation of people and you look on this side and that side and you realize, wait a minute, mom and dad made it out. Yeah. So for me, I owe my folks a lot. I mean, to this day, my mom sends me a prayer every single morning without fail.
Bless her.
She will send me a prayer on WhatsApp every single morning without fail. If my dad hasn't spoken to me, it's because he's heard that I'm doing okay through my mom. Mom and I we chat and banter all day. And then dad will pop in. Hey, baby, how are you?
You good?
Are you okay? Because you're quiet. But usually he hears how I'm doing from my mom. So for me, they created their own culture and their own life, and they had to fight some very difficult battles. But those are my guys, man. They for me, there's nothing that they're the ones that infuse the spirit of resilience. They're the reason why I became the first in many instances across the entire spectrum of my family members. My folks sacrificed plenty. My parents sold their house to send me to school abroad. And they sold the house that they lived in for me to go to school. So when you then fast forward 20, 25 years later,
no surprises.
You can't not do well so that your mom and dad be like, you know what?
It was worth it.
It was worth it. So I love that I can say that now. I love that I genuinely see like a twinkle of an eye when I see my mom and dad look at me. They're literally like, "That's our baby." And I'm like, "I'm here.
We did that.
We did it. You know, and we're still going. We're still here. We're still going. We're still trying to do the best that we can.
What is success to you?
But I knew that question was going to come.
Listen, and to make it feel better, everyone has had to take a pause.
Yeah.
To answer that question.
What is success to me? To me, or just in general?
To you.
Success means different things to me on any given day. I shared earlier that I live my life in bite-sized chunks. I look at what's on my plate for today. So today's success could be, you know, I was struggling when I woke up and I told you this morning, you're like, "Girl, I can't wait to see you." I was like, "Girl, listen, I am feeling like I've been dragged through a hedge." So right now, success to me is I'm here having this conversation with you, and I hope that it inspires somebody in the ether, right? Success to me is knowing that I'm doing the best that I know how to raise intelligent, spirited, socially aware, energetic, young human beings that will one day be world changers. Success means to me that, you know, I have a happy husband, a husband that's happy with his wife, and I'm doing my bit to feel like I make him happy. I don't think so. Success could mean that when my friend calls me and she needs me, I can be there for her. So I don't look at success as this big thing of, you need, you know, a whole series of accolades and tranches of words spoken about you. I think success is being able to be good with yourself when you go to bed at night. And I'm in a season in my life where when I go to bed, guys, I sleep. Guys, I sleep. Whether it's in the bush, whether it is in a 5-star here.
You're sleeping.
I sleep. I don't have anyone chasing me, so I'm not running. And for me, that's success. I feel like I am right where I need to be, and I'm working towards something better. I don't know what that will look like. I'm very well conscious that life is a series of highs, lows, blows. I have survived plenty, as you have. And all of those things, the good, the bad, the ugly, comes together to make this beautiful mess that is us as people. And how beautiful that mess is entirely up to you and I. It's entirely up to you and I. So success means so many things. I don't think I can encapsulate it in one sentence. I really can't.
I think there's as many as 100 definitions of success every day.
Absolutely.
For every day that
Absolutely.
we're here.
Listen, success is I didn't eat a freaking cookie. I wanted to eat that cookie today, but I remembered how I died nearly from those burpees and I left it alone. For me, it's really it means so many different things, and I don't know that you can equate it to having X amount of money. You've got millionaires that are still chasing their first billion. You've got billionaires that are chasing their next, right? We all want different things, and different things have meaning to us at different intervals. So what success looks like for you might not necessarily look like success for me. And I think if you are able to actually define that, then you're good. You're winning.
Final question.
Yeah.
Storytellers, journalists, newsmakers.
Yeah.
In a sense, we create people. We create personas. Typical successes, right? We're the ones who go and say, the illustrious son of Africa has, you know, that packaging that people see and say, this packaging is a success.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I look at my profile and I'm like, oh my God, that is me, right?
Yeah.
When sitting here, I feel just as normal, ordinary as everybody else.
Yeah.
So we create those stories. We know how to package. And it's not to diminish what people have done. But for some reason, that's what people now take as the substance of success.
Right.
Can you tear that veil off people's eyes? People who read about other people and feel like I'm nobody.
I think it's a lot to try to live your life through the lens of somebody else. I think that we are all here designed to inspire in some way or the other. I spoke to a friend of mine recently. The last time I saw her, she was just going through it, and she was in a bad situation and was divorced and all sorts of stuff, right? And we hadn't spoken in a long time. But she inspires me because you never hear her murmur and complain. She will tell you what she's going through, but she's not saying it from the point of, oh, me, oh my. And what I thought was special in the last conversation we had was because she was sharing with me that my son is now in university. And this is a woman who left her career back home trying to find a way to raise her children and, became a nanny here. And she's sharing, babe, my kid is now in university in Canada, for that matter, not even back home. And I just was like, look at God, right? And that's success. That is success, because you hear me, she is raising these boys and she's not with her kids. Her kids are back home. So imagine the heart of a mother to be raising somebody else's children
while yours are back home.
You see? So I think we all have such a story, and there's not enough hours that we can fit into a podcast to unpack any one of your single guests and even your own story. There's not enough hours to talk about the different sequences of events that have brought you here. There's some folks that are sitting in these chairs, but they were in prison before, and they ain't gonna tell you that though. What I'm saying is that we all have our stuff. But I think the biggest thing that you can do well is to be able to just own your stuff and turn it into gold, man. Turn those lemons
into lemonade.
We're on the rocks, my guy.
With a straw.
Listen.
And that tiny
and
umbrella.
That little thing, yeah, right? And I get that it's not always easy to do. It's not. That's why you have to have the right people around you. You have to be agile. You have to understand that life is not always roses. It's really not. And what are roses for you might not be roses for me. You might be like, girl, and I'll be like, girl. Right? So
absolutely.
Yeah, we should meet each other where we're at. Meet people where they're at. And, I might be high today, but tomorrow it might be a different story for whatever the case is. But
and it's all part of the story.
It's part of the story, but at the core of it, you should be able to say, oh, Yvonne is like, I mean, girl, you know my battles for the last couple years. The stuff I've been going through.
I know.
Well, folk ain't gonna see me out here on these streets sweating though.
We're gonna turn up looking good.
Listen.
Killing it.
Yes, because it's all part of the journey. It's all part of the journey. Absolutely. It's all necessary. It's so necessary. And you and I are women of faith. So from
very
a biblical
important
perspective, who was soaring and gliding on a freaking silver gold chariot all day, every day, forever and a day. Everybody in there got their stuff.
Even Jesus. You know what? On that note, just know that if you're having it rough, if you feel like it's not looking all together, just know that Jesus was there too.
Look,
right?
He was not rolling around in a Bentley.
He
was a carpenter. God bless his soul. He was a carpenter, and half of us in here are not trying to be friggin' hammer and nails. We're really not. But
hang in there.
Yet he saved us all. Yeah, we are all here.
Here we are.
Yes.
Hang in there. Yvonne, on this note, we're going to say cheers to your success.
Oh, bless you, baby.
We celebrate you. We love you.
We love you too,
you
girl.
Know that.
Yes, I know. And you know what? I'm really blessed. I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to sit with you.
I know.
I know we're going to do this again in about 5 minutes. But really, it's always a pleasure. I love seeing you grow. I love seeing you soar. I especially love that if there's a woman that hears advice, Maiwa listens.
I get you.
Maiwa, I see her. I look at Maiwa. Maiwa is like my baby sis, because there's a lot of times she'll be like, sis, I need your help. And a lot of what I see is I see a younger version of myself We don't need to tell people.
Nobody needs to know.
Yeah, I'm low-key her auntie. She should be calling me Auntie Yvonne.
I should kneel down and say good morning.
Hey, but yeah, really, congratulations to you as well, honey. And keep doing what you're doing. We love it. We love it.
Guys, it's been an amazing conversation, and I know you've enjoyed it. So just do what you're supposed to do, right? Like, share, comment, and just spread the love. See you in the next episode.
Ciao, ciao.